Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today we bring you some news. King Charles's final decision on Andrew's relinquishment of his title signifies a shift in power towards William and Catherine. Recent events, many of which came to a head during the royal family's customary retreat at Balmoral in the Scottish Highlands, show a calculated shift in approach and the distribution of power within the House of Windsor. The British monarchy, an institution whose importance is maintained by symbolism and ritual as much as by constitutional tradition, is through a marked period of transition under King Charles III. This shift is based on a number of decisions concerning Prince Andrew, Duke of York. People regard these choices as the royal family taking a more measured and accountable approach to running the show. These measures, which have taken the Duke by surprise, and which he has openly criticized as hurtful and unjust, are reactions to the current scandals involving him and to the need of preparing the monarchy for the challenges and opportunities of the modern day. They occur simultaneously with William and Catherine, Prince and Princess of Wales, assuming a more prominent leadership role. Their influence and prominence in public life are shaping the Crown's public image. To grasp the significance of the recent actions, one must be knowledgeable about several interrelated variables such as individual, institutional, constitutional, and public sentiment. To begin, the once private family getaway at Balmoral has evolved into a secretive meeting spot for top-level strategists and policymakers. In this case, the senior royal, who has been tarnishing the institution's image for years, had his official position decided upon at the estate by the king and his closest advisors. Second, after almost 8 months out in the public eye due to health issues, Catherine, Princess of Wales, returned to a more active public schedule. At the very core of the family, this restored a reassuring public presence. Thanks to her recovery and increased participation in family life, the heir and his consort are better able to embody the ideals and goals that the monarchy wishes to promote. Thirdly, the choices taken at Balmoral were inspired by Prince William's vision for a slimmed-down monarchy, which prioritizes official duties among a smaller number of working royals, finances prudence, and focused public impact. Not only have these elements prompted a number of personal shifts, but they have also purposefully laid the groundwork for the modern crown to follow. More than merely a holiday retreat, Balmoral Castle has served as a ceremonial and operational hub, bringing together personal discussions, family dynamics, and pressing institutional matters. Due to its remote location and lengthy history as a family retreat, it has often been used for confidential discussions and crucial negotiations. Historically, royals have used their time away from London to secretly discuss matters of personal importance with trusted advisors and family members, even when these matters have public and constitutional implications. These days, many talk about how the royal family should handle Prince Andrew and Prince Harry's persistent issues at the Balmoral gathering. For the royal family, it was an opportunity to plan for the future of their financially sustainable and legitimately popular duties. This discussion was part of a larger sequence that unfolded in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, during which the royal family was embroiled in scandals that tarnished their image and prompted a slow but steady shift in public opinion on the responsibility of rulers. Reportedly, King Charles discussed and established a plan of action for Prince Andrew's position during those talks. The Duke's transition from working royal to non-working family member was formalized according to informed sources after the king received thorough briefings and financial and legal counsel. This process shortens a line of inquiry that began with the late Queen Elizabeth II and has been molded by many initiatives to address the Duke's reputational issues. The choices taken in Balmoral demonstrate that the most senior working royals, the King, Queen Camilla, Prince and Princess of Wales, are in complete agreement that the Duke's scandals pose an ongoing danger to the Crown's image and need firm institutional measures to address them. The established strategy aims to safeguard the institution from further harm to its reputation and to make the monarchy more transparent and accountable by establishing defined boundaries. Institutional architecture was in the news when Catherine, Princess of Wales, resumed her active public and familial role. The audience was understandably concerned and watched her every move for over 8 months while she battled a significant health issue. The reason for this was her immense reputation and the symbolic weight of her position in the contemporary conception of royalty. The news described her recovery as striking, and she seemed to be reviving with new energy. An expedition to the Norfolk estate was one example of a family affair that made headlines and garnered attention on social media. During a delightful outdoor game, the princess played with Prince William and their 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Symbolically, these intimate moments have great significance for a family whose private deeds are often seen as public ones. A number of factors highlight the significance of the Princess of Wales's return home. What this means in reality is that the royal project's senior brass are once again working together. For quite some time, William and his wife have been formulating a strategy to make the monarchy more focused. Her philanthropic pursuits align harmoniously with the heir's emphasis on a contemporary socially significant royal agenda, particularly in the areas of mental health, family welfare, and early childhood development. The public's perception of stability and continuity is enhanced by Catherine's presence, which mitigates the impact of long-term turmoil and raises hopes that the senior royal family's future leaders would demonstrate compassion, loyalty, and public service. Instead of distributing its emphasis too thinly across a great range of causes, her patronages demonstrate how a modernized monarchy should concentrate its efforts by picking a few of issues where the family can make a substantial impact. Using this strategy, you may choose charitable endeavors that are conducive to continuous involvement and have measurable outcomes. William intends to concentrate the Crown's social capital on a smaller number of priorities, and this will help achieve that aim. Numerous constitutional scholars and royal critics have written and talked about Prince William's vision, which is the basis for many of the current changes. The concept of a slimmed-down monarchy is built upon several interconnected ideas. These include reducing the number of working royals who perform official duties, directing the family's public and charitable work toward a smaller number of causes where they can clearly make an impact, increasing transparency and accountability regarding the allocation of royal funds, and utilizing contemporary communication methods to engage diverse younger audiences in authentic rather than staged ways. A focus on real-world issues and evolving public expectations underpins this approach throughout. Fewer formal royals implies less need for public funds, which is good news from a budgetary perspective. At a time when citizens are increasingly curious about how their government spends money, the sovereign grant a portion of the Crown Estate's revenue that the British government uses to assist the monarch with official expenses and palace maintenance has piqued the public's interest. The overall expenditure on travel staff and security may be reduced by allocating more official duties to fewer individuals. This reduces the strain on the public purse and brings the institution's operating expenses in accordance with contemporary principles of fiscal restraint. It also allows for more transparent budgeting, more stringent financial monitoring, and better reporting on the use of public monies to support public services. The goal of narrowing the family's patronages from a broad spectrum to a more specific one is to increase their engagement with public issues. By narrowing their focus, a working royal may build lasting relationships with companies, learn more, and launch initiatives with measurable outcomes. Some examples of areas that could benefit from increased attention include early childhood development, which could pave the way for longitudinal program evaluations, mental health, which could spur improvements in service delivery through the formation of networks spanning the clinical, academic, and voluntary sectors, and family support, which could support advocacy and policy efforts that lead to tangible results. The traditional practice of bestowing royal titles on several ceremonial patronages that failed to significantly advance any one field gave way to these kinds of long-term commitments. This approach is also very dependent on contemporary means of communication. Finding a middle ground between the weight of tradition and the desire for immediacy and authenticity is a challenge for the monarchy in today's media landscape. You need to utilize current channels and present an image that is accessible, relevant, and dignified if you want to reach the younger generation that learns about politics and institutions via social media and uses these platforms to evaluate them. Helping individuals avoid the need to either hide their troubles or put on artificial reactions that don't connect with others might be achieved via social media documentary formats, carefully timed public disclosures, and a more honest media approach. Responsibility and established norms of conduct for family members are also important to this method. Differentiating between working royals, who are publicly appointed representatives of the crown, and are thus subject to public accountability norms, and non-working royals who lead private lives unencumbered by official patronages or state-funded assistance helps to clarify expectations of the royal family. Maintaining order inside the company is aided by this as well. Legislation outlining the duties and privileges of active royal rank is an advance towards formalization. It organizes what was before an unorganized mix of informal conventions and impromptu decisions into a systematic organizational framework. This idea of transformation is now being put to the test in Prince Andrew's case. His background as a full-time working royal is at odds with the principles of a more modest and traditional group. King Charles's rulings are more than just sanctions for an individual. They are systemic reforms designed to put practice in line with theory. They serve as a boundary between the public responsibilities of the organization and the personal lives and financial obligations of its members. To cope with the Duke of York's continued prominence and the risks that accompany it, the king has used a combination of symbolic, logistical, and financial measures. The Duke's retirement from public life and his connection with the institution are the intended outcomes of each action. It is now very evident that the institution prioritizes its collective integrity over individual privilege, and an informal change has been formalized as a result of these acts. An important aspect of this strategy has been the disposition of the Duke's long-term residence Royal Lodge, a grand mansion in Windsor Great Park. Since signing a long-term lease on the expansive property with several rooms in the early 2000s, the Duke has resided at Royal Lodge. The tenant is obligated to maintain and repair the property as stated in the lease. Due of the age and size of many royal residences, this is an enormous undertaking. The costs of maintaining and conserving historical artifacts could be substantial each year. Although these financial responsibilities are enormous, the Crown's response has been shaped by how they interact with other economic elements of the Duke's position. The elimination of a sizable annual grant that covered the costs of the Duke's personal security detail is a key financial lever. This security was funded by the sovereign's private income, particularly from the Duchy of Lancaster, an earlier bequest that had been put aside to cover the sovereign's personal needs. Aside from being a visible symbol of official standing, taking away the money also removes a practical right. A specialist security unit requires substantial investment and meticulous preparation. It is clear that the Duke will not be receiving this support anymore, as he will not be receiving the state-supported equipment that is typically associated with a functioning representative of the Crown. If they don't have this support, they'll have to decide between settling for less protection or shelling out a ton of money for private security. Because of this, it may be more challenging for them to live in a prominent location and attract media attention. In addition to the loss of security money, the Crown has made it clear that public monies will not be used to pay for the massive repairs and renovations required at Royal Lodge. Staying in such a massive and expensive mansion loses some of its allure when the Duke's personal income drops partly as a result of less official duties and the associated money. Even though Frogmore Cottage has previously housed other members of the royal family, the Crown has forced its inhabitants to downsize to smaller dwellings. Both in private and in public, this has occurred. This method reduces the likelihood that a large sum of public funds would be spent on a property held by a monarch who is not employed, while also bringing living conditions into conformity with modern obligations and expectations. Property managers and others responsible for the upkeep of institutions might benefit greatly from Royal Lodge. According to reports, its market value is in the tens of millions of pounds. This indicates that the Crown Estate is concerned about the responsible use of costly property in relation to financial management for the long term. Within this framework, the decision to withhold public funds from Royal Lodge's renovation could be seen as an act of institutional caution. The property has the potential to generate substantial income if rented out for business purposes, or it could be occupied by a hard-working family member whose contributions justify the financial outlay. Financial responsibility is an integral aspect of the new royal order, which the king intends to implement by restructuring personnel and managing finances. In both official and informal remarks, senior royals such as the Princess Royal have consistently emphasized the importance of responsibility and efficiency. They are in line with current choices because of their association with a realistic view of public resources and family duties. The king's strategy also includes gradually reassigning and redistributing the Duke's official titles, military positions, and honorary duties. Honorifics such as Duke of York and Prince are bestowed upon individuals by royal prerogative or as a result of their birthright. The sovereign, however, bestows several formal functions upon royals, such as colonelcies, honorary military roles, and the active use of the name His Royal Highness in situations that imply state representation. These positions establish genuine links between the royal family and the ceremonial institutions of the state. There is a prohibition on using the HRH style in contexts where it may be interpreted as an indication of official representation, and the Duke's remaining military positions have been eliminated. He has obviously lost his status as a working royal, as this proves. Some of the high-ranking positions that were bestowed upon the Duke again were colonel size and honorary air or navy appointments connected to units and locations with whom the Duke had historical relations. There are symbolic and practical reasons why these tasks are essential. Attendance at ceremonial events, assistance to active duty soldiers, and contributions to regimental charities are all things that are mandated. To maintain cordial ties between the Crown and the armed forces, these roles are best filled by senior, reliable royals who can carry them out on a regular basis without tarnishing their reputation. While ensuring that participation does not wane, it also safeguards the honor of ceremonial life. It is evident that the Crown loves the idea of linking ceremonial status to active valued service when it bestows the colonelcy of an important regiment on a working royal. The Dukedom of York reportedly has the green light to enter a period of practical suspension as well. The Duke of York was traditionally bestowed to the second son of the monarch, although it is very improbable that anybody else will be bestowed this title anytime soon. Allowing the present holder's tie to the title to erode over time is a symbolic decision that has been made on purpose. The Crown is trying to ensure that it will be easier to relaunch the monarchy around a smaller set of active royals by delaying the reallocation of the title for the time being. A different generation whose role is more in line with modern expectations may succeed to the title in the future. But in the near run denying them, it sends the message that accolades aren't free, and that public service is the only way to really deserve them. A more immediate and consequential part of the Duke's evolving circumstances concerns his own personal inheritance. Prince Andrew reportedly did not get a substantial sum of money from the hidden will of the late Queen Elizabeth II. Caution is warranted due to the fact that the private disposition of the late monarch's estate is not publicly known. The Duke may no longer have any financial ties to the late sovereign, according to the rumor that he was left out of a substantial bequest. The apparent absence of a family bequest, together with the public's disapproval of security and property maintenance spending and the Duke's removal from key positions, strongly suggests that he is no longer financially or operationally connected to the family. Speculation in both public and private circles suggests that these actions have greatly enraged the Duke. His long service to the monarchy and nation, including his time in the Navy patronages and public obligations, he said in an unusually personal statement, had been disregarded in discussions about his present issues. After the Queen's death, he has been treated in a manner that he finds profoundly painful and unfair, and he has been left out of the institution where he spent much of his adult life, which hurts him. From a familial perspective, this reaction is understandable. When individuals lose wealth, fame, or position, they are certain to feel betrayed, furious, and even violent. The public's reaction, however, has mostly mirrored the institutional logic of the Crown rather than the Duke's subjective assessment of his service. Legal disputes between the Duke and Jeffrey Epstein, which resulted in high-profile settlements, tarnished the Duke's and the monarchy's image. The level of tolerance for ambiguity about the treatment of senior royals shifted after these events. Because of this, people had high hopes that the Crown would be forthright and responsible when accused of breaking the law or moral standards. A lot of individuals felt the Crown had to do something drastic to protect its reputation and win back the public's faith. Many Britons support King Charles's actions according to statistics and popular opinions. Polls released by news media reveal widespread support, and in some cases a clear majority for penalizing individuals whose activities have generated significant controversy by withholding public funds and official positions from them. Because opinions fluctuate, wording matters, and results vary across demographic groupings, it's important to take polls like these with a grain of salt. But public trust is essential for the success of any institutional change initiative, and sustained public backing lends credibility to such a program. Attempts to maintain public support are predicated on the perception of the Crown's leadership as fair, competent, and honest, all of which the management team is fully aware of. Historians, constitutional experts, and communication strategists have all voiced their perspectives on the King's rulings, proving that popular opinion isn't the only valid one. The steps were seen by royal historians as part of a larger shift towards a more accountable and governance-oriented understanding of the monarchy. According to those who keep an eye on things, the days of casually handling reputational issues away from the public eye are mostly over. Additionally, they argue that under today's system of government, the sovereign must demonstrate that actions detrimental to the institution have tangible consequences. The actions were made to protect the brand, according to public relations specialists, who emphasize that the monarchy's credibility is crucial to its representational power. An important aspect of expert analysis is considering the potential impact on the Constitution. There is a meeting point between individual liberty and collective responsibility under the British monarchy. Both symbolic and practical duties are performed by the sovereign and a select group of senior royals who are provided with the necessary instruments by the state. Therefore, by definition, it is a political and constitutional process to choose who receives these resources and under what conditions. The King is doing institutional cleaning by drawing clearer boundaries between working and non-working royals. This will ensure that public funds are distributed only to those who actively contribute to the Crown's objective. Such deeds constitute the norm. For instance, the way future monarchs and royal families handle such matters is influenced by the actions of the current King, who may choose to revoke military appointments, withdraw protection, or cease financial contributions. These challenges go beyond only family matters, according to constitutional attorneys and political scientists. Since the Crown receives public funding and carries out vital state functions, including opening Parliament, greeting ambassadors, and conducting state visits, the public has a right to expect that those in positions of power within the Crown are truthful, Specifically, collaboration between the government and local police may be necessary for the plans to include personal safety. Careful planning is required before making any changes to that service that might impact public safety. The Crown government ministries and local authorities are faced with the challenge of balancing private commitments with public duties when deciding how to elevate senior family members. Public discourse around these shifts reveals how views on responsibility equality and the abuse of power are developing. More and more public funding agencies are being held to a higher standard of transparency in democracies. When a member of the monarchy acts in a way that goes against the institution's principles, the public's faith must be quickly and firmly restored, since the monarchy's legitimacy rests on its ability to reflect universally appealing civic ideals. As far as the public perceives them, King Charles's actions provide practical answers while also symbolically endorsing a modern ethic of stewardship. Consideration of the ways in which family dynamics impact these decisions is also beneficial. Sovereigns must navigate the perpetual tension between loyalty to family and duty to the structure that is the royal household. His stance demonstrates that King Charles prioritizes the well-being of institutions above the esteem of family members. He is more concerned with the welfare of institutions in the long run, as shown, for instance, by his willingness to do things that damage his own brother's image. The fact that prominent members of the royal family, including the Prince and Princess of Wales, as well as Queen Camilla, have reportedly supported these reforms, suggests that the core group is determined to implement the reforms in a rigorous manner, regardless of the cost to themselves or the difficulty of convincing family members to cooperate. The decisions seem less like an act of the sovereign and more like a collaborative effort when many senior working members are participating. Finding that sweet spot is challenging. Personal feelings of sympathy for members of the royal family may cloud one's judgment, which contributes to the monarchy's symbolic capital and soft power. Since privilege cannot shield wrongdoing, the Crown must tread carefully in its response, lest it come seen as unjust or cruel. Official pronouncements, carefully orchestrated media briefings, and symbolic job offers all point to an effort to make the announcements of these changes appear less arbitrary. The overarching narrative emerging from these events is one of strategic renewal. The Crown is attempting to strike a middle ground between more traditional values and more modern demands of government, such as fiscal responsibility and public oversight. The decentralization of ceremonial roles, the reconfiguration of financial support, the retirement of a prominent royal from active activities, and the rearrangement of property and security arrangements are all examples of the monarchy adjusting to a changing social and fiscal situation. The core group of working royals must demonstrate competence, honesty, and a strong sense of public purpose if this approach is to succeed in keeping the people's support. This period of transition will have far-reaching consequences down the road. There has been an instant improvement in distinguishing between legitimate and unofficial representatives of the Crown. This clears things up and makes it easier to hold individuals responsible. It will be easier to justify a limited and open approach to public finance during this period of scrutiny and budget cuts, but in the long run, a smaller group of engaged and motivated royals working on specific projects can help keep them going, strengthen public ties to certain causes, and demonstrate the institution's value. In order to maintain widespread popular legitimacy, a monarchy should publicly enforce standards and react aggressively to violations of any kind, whether they be of law, ethics, or public expectation. Additionally, rebuilding is a very sensitive procedure. The competence of the monarchy's administrators and the will of the people to continue bestowing symbolic authority and resources on it determine the monarchy's adaptability. The tension between personal allegiance and civic responsibility has been tested by King Charles's decisions about his brother. Given the outpouring of appreciation from both the general public and seasoned critics, it seems that his strategy has done more good than harm, at least in the near run, for the Crown's image. Prince Charles's authority is solidifying, and the Princess of Wales's visits are becoming more frequent. This demonstrates that the duties are being transferred in a manner that enhances the perception of the institution's future. There are still risks. The senior royals are made more apparent by giving them greater duties. It may have a more significant impact on a prominent figure's reputation if they are seen as making a mistake or failing. Furthermore, the organization must guarantee that its members do not perceive any bias or political motivation in the regulations that govern them. High levels of uniformity in the application of regulations are crucial for credibility to endure. Since this is the case, the institution should react consistently when its members do the same thing. Larger political considerations also need to be taken into account. Consider how people's perceptions of what is appropriate and relevant continue to shape the monarchy's relationship with the Commonwealth nations. Some debates about the present and future of constitutional links may be influenced by the way the Crown deals with high-profile internal matters. Government spending watchdogs and lawmakers will also keep pressing for transparency over the use of public funds for private gain. Both the Crown's prestige and the Constitution benefit from its willingness to subject its finances and appointments to clearer restrictions. If we want to put the principles we announced into action, we need to do things like document the regulations for working status, create transparent budget plans that are tied to objective metrics of public engagement, negotiate security plans that strike a balance between public accountability and individual safety, and devise communication plans that both safeguard privacy when needed and provide enough information to maintain public trust. Organizations may also consider formalizing processes for resolving family disputes with far-reaching consequences. The need for sudden public-facing actions would be reduced as a result. The Crown must lastly ascertain if the priorities it sets are still valued by the people. Decreasing the number of potential causes is only the beginning. Having measurable outcomes is crucial. Investment in research partnerships with public and nonprofit groups and a willingness to adapt strategies based on results are all necessary for this. If the royal couple can show that focused, long-term engagement yields clear social advantages, they will have a better case for a modernized monarchy that is meaningful and symbolic. In sum, the monarchy is entering a new era as a result of the royal family's evolving circumstances, which are characterized by Prince Andrew's formal distance, the Prince and Princess of Wales's increasing practical leadership, and the sovereign's strong use of disciplined institutional control. The Crown seems to be moving in the direction of a paradigm that prioritizes a limited number of professionally managed official representatives who are guided by fiscal responsibility, public accountability, and a concentration on society-important activities. These changes are essential and deliberate, not just ceremonial. The goal is to ensure that the institution's standing remains high for a long time. The king has some leeway to go down this reforming road since the populace seems to be behind the recent initiatives. How consistently these choices are enforced, how much of a benefit they are to the people, and how devoted the working royals remain to ethical leadership and service will determine the monarchy's destiny. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.